you have two choices. One, you quit, or you could just be like, let's just go all out. Let's see what you can do.
Today, I've got to admit, this is a special one for me, and I'll explain to you why. I'm excited to welcome someone who's been using his voice and his message to help people speak with confidence and clarity. He's a professional voice coach, speaker, and the creator of Voice by Matt podcast, where he explores personal growth, communication, and what it means to finally show up fully in your life. Please welcome to the show a personal friend of mine, Mr. Matt Berthot.
There's craft, which is voice technique. There's artistry, which is storytelling. And then there's performance magic. Performance magic is the ultimate goal for every high performer in the entire world, period. What we want for people is for them to feel what we feel right now. And what I mean by that is
welcome to another episode of the Real Mentors podcast. As always, I'm your host, Sean Martin. And today, I've got to admit, this is a special one for me, and I'll explain to you why. But I'm excited to welcome someone who's been using his voice and his message to help people speak with confidence and clarity. He's a professional voice coach, speaker, and the creator of Voice by Matt podcast, where he explores personal growth, communication, and what it means to finally show up fully in your life. Please welcome to the show a personal friend of mine, Mr. Matt Berthot.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you,
It's so
brother.
awesome to be here. I was talking to your podcast guy here and kind of telling him how we met.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, this is like a full circle moment.
This is a full circle moment, and we committed to doing this in person.
Yep.
Although we did, I did a virtual on your pod. So Matt, for anybody who doesn't know, came across my feed early in my self-development journey.
Yeah.
And Matt is actually someone I work with through voice coaching, and now just fully found out that I was one of his first clients at the time.
Yeah.
And what I was doing was looking to find my speaking voice from a technical viewpoint. Like, how do we speak clearly, and how do we own our voice, and how do we exercise the muscles that, right. That's what it was presented as. And that is very much what he does. However, inadvertently, what you did was you unlocked my true story.
Yep.
My real story. And for the first time, I shared with anybody outside of a therapeutic setting or family and friends was that I had went to prison, and I was, I designed my life and all the things that I practice regularly, and you know about my story now. Matt was actually the first step in that journey, and then graciously gave me a spot on his Unmute stage, which, even though you're a boy from Kansas, had the Moxie and the Stones to put on an event here in New York, and I was one of the guest speakers. And just to bring it full circle, I was scheduled to speak there in the afternoon.
Yep.
And you had a couple of powerhouse speakers early on in the day who were ladies, who shared their stories of trauma, abuse, escaping a cult in Utah, and the other one escaping, sexual abuse, all kinds of abuse, and drug addict, gang member parents. Jamie Herena, who was ironically speaking here at this space just less than a month ago for our book signing. So full circle doesn't even begin to
I didn't put that
it.
part together. I forgot all about Unmute for a second.
Yeah. And because of those two young ladies that shared their story in the morning session of your speaking engagement and your event, I had the courage to then say to myself during lunch break, there's no way that these two little ladies are going to come up here and get real and raw, and you're going to sugarcoat your story and talk about how you built businesses and not share the fact that you went to prison and you grew up in 1980s crack addicted New York projects. So thank you, brother.
No, Sean.
God put us in each other's path for a reason.
Yep.
And here you are in the South Bronx.
I know. I love it. I remember it was like the first or second session that we had, and we were just unpacking some of your life and some of your story.
First.
It was the first session?
Yeah, I got no filter.
God, right.
Not for people that I trust, and I automatically trust.
And so we were on that call, and I remember you told me the story of the prison time, and I remember looking at you and be like, dude, that's your story. Yeah. Like, you have to talk about that. And you were like, nope, not going to do it. I'm not ready to do it. I'm not going to do it, Matt. And then I remember I unmute. It was Joanna and Jamie. And I remember you came up to me at the break and you were like, dude, I think I have to tell my story. I was like, yeah, you should. And you did it. And then Allison, because of you, decided to do it.
Wow.
Remember?
Yeah.
Like she told her story.
Her wild story about growing up with hippie parents and everything and rolling around naked in the front yard. That's how it works. That is exactly how all of this works. And then we had some guests that just finished shooting and you guys were meeting them in the other room. And sure enough, we had to like cut ourselves off because we could have done it all afternoon.
Yep.
But good people bring good people together. So thank you for being a good dude, a good person on a good mission. But let's talk about you and reinventing yourself, because when I had met you, it was early on in your own journey of becoming this voice coach. Yep. So by trade, you are a vocal teacher. Music teacher. He's the theater guy at his local high school in Bumblefuck, Kansas. Not Wichita, which is the only town of Kansas City, Kansas. I only know because Missouri's close. So literally, I couldn't name a town in in Kansas. And I still couldn't tell you where you were from. So tell the audience how you grew up, where you grew up, and we'll build from there.
I grew up in a very small town called Ark City, Kansas. And I was a 3-sport athlete, football, baseball, wrestling, state champion wrestler, 4-time state champion team. And middle of my junior year, Bob Tessman, my counselor, I broke up with my girlfriend at the time. And I was a little sad, a little depressed. And he brought me in his office and he said, Matt, and you're going to laugh because this is one of the first questions I asked you. He said, what do you love more than anything in the whole world? And I said, Kylie. And he said, no. What do you love that you're not doing right now? And I was like, I like to sing a little bit. He goes, really? I was like, yeah, I like to sing in my truck, alone. I love music. He was like, okay, we're going to enroll you in choir. And I was like, what? And I enrolled in choir, middle of my junior year. I did not know how to read music. I had no idea what I was doing. I was a horrible singer, but I always loved music, like Michael Jackson, Boyz II Men, Garth Brooks. Like I had such a wide variety of music too that I loved. And I fell in love with singing. And I quit sports completely when I went to college. I failed music theory like 2 or 3 times. I grew up, my dad, he was just kind of a maintenance guy, working machine jobs. And then my mom was a temp, editing books. And we went bankrupt as a family growing up, and we didn't have a lot. I joke, and this was how my kids, when I would teach them, would relate with me. For 19 years, I taught at Winfield High School teaching choir. And I would tell them, hey man, I'm from Cali County. Like I'm from exactly where you're from. And I ate bacon and eggs for dinner. I had breakfast for dinner, ramen noodles, like fake grilled cheese, like not Velveeta. My mom would bring home
cheese product.
Correct. But that's how
we do that shit here in the Bronx too.
That's how I learned how to cook. Mom and dad.
Poverty's universal.
Yeah, mom and dad would be working, and me and Mark and Luke, we would figure it out. But I think about growing up in the 80s, in the 90s, man. Like we didn't have cell phones, and we got to run around and just act foolish, and But there was always something about spirit and emotion that I was always drawn to. I would always know if somebody was feeling off. There was like this intuition that I just knew like something was up or something was wrong. And I would always be the guy that all the girls would talk to, and all my boy, guys that were friends with me when they were going through some hard stuff, they'd talk to. But it took me 6.5 years to graduate college. because I changed my major like 3 or 4 times.
That might be a record, brother. 6.5. Jesus.
Well, there's a joke in Tommy Boy where he's like, it took me 6.5 years. Well, are you a doctor? And I'm like, no, I'm not a doctor. But I changed my major because it was hard. You know, like I didn't know how to play piano. I didn't know how to read music. I didn't know how to sing. I didn't want to take foreign language. That the effort to finish things was not really there, the belief system.
Right.
However, my mom taught me, and she was right, Matt, if you believe in yourself, it's true, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm kind of bouncing all over the place, but that middle of my junior year, when I broke up with my girlfriend, I became senior class president. And then I won the state championship in wrestling. And I remember I was 20-10 going in the finals match. And there was this moment that he took me down in the first 30 seconds. I tried to put this move on him called the snake, and he bull rushed me, and I rolled my ankle. And I was like, oh. And it's one of those moments, Sean, that to most people, it's just like a moment. But for me, it was one of those slow motion moments where life and everything I worked for, you know, from 5 years old to 17 went through my brain in a vision. And I saw my mom and my dad in my corner when I was wrestling. I saw me weighing in, kids making fun of me, calling me fat, and my mom and dad were in the stands, and everything was slow motion. And I remember like this awareness came over me that was like, you have 2 choices. One, you quit and you take second. And nobody thought you could even make it this far. You were 20-10 coming in the finals. You're wrestling a dude that's 34-2. And you know, you made it this far. Good job. Or you could just be like, let's just go all out. Let's go balls to the wall. Let's see what you can do if you put everything into this one moment. And so I made the choice to put everything into that moment. And second period started. I did a switch, grabbed his legs, leaned back, got a 5-point move, and I ended up beating him 8-6.
Nice.
And most kids, most people, when they do something extraordinary like that, they jump around and do a flip or yell and run around the arena. This is just who I am. I think about that moment. I can see it in my head. I kneeled down on the ground and just put my head down. And I was like, holy shit. Holy shit. You actually just did that. What else can you do? And I was like, oh, that was the first moment in my life where I put mind, body, and spirit into one moment. And I knew after that, man, I could do anything. So fast forward to the question that you asked, how did we get to this moment? In 2019, there was a podcast that I listened to called MFCEO with Andy Frisella and Von Kohler, Von Kohler is one of my voice clients. And they had a guy on there named James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy, he's my good buddy. And they were talking about this new program called 75 Hard. And Andy said, none of you MFers are ever going to finish this. And I was like, that's what I needed. Okay, I'm going to try this out. For 21 years, Sean, I've been coaching people one-on-one voice, singing lessons, and now, speaking and singing lessons. And I was at a point in my life where I was stuck. Thankfully, Doug Swanson, my chiropractor, said, hey, you got to listen to this guy named Ed Milet. I think you'd really like him. And so Ed Milet took me to Andy Frisella and Von Kohler and the MFCEO, which hooked me up with the 75 Hard. And I finished it. I read books. I've never read a book in my life cover to cover until June or March of 2019. Never read a book in my life.
Wow.
like legitimately cover to cover.
What was that first book?
Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to start.
Well, I mean, I had no idea what I was getting into, but the phrase, which I've taught you, is energy is frequency, frequency carries information. And I read that phrase, and I'm sitting in my chair in my living room, and I read it and I underline it, and I go, holy shit. I was right. And so what was I right about? We're going to go there today, Sean.
Please do.
I was teaching a voice lesson in 2013 to Mariah Warren. She was one of my voice students. And I told you this on your intro call. I know I did. And she was singing At Last by Etta James. At last, my love's come along. And I got this voice in the back of my head that said, go further. Like Field of Dreams, right? Like, if you build it, he will come. And I was like, Mariah, we're gonna try something. I don't know. And at that time I weighed like 250. Like I was big. And I said, Mariah, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to tell me, what do you love more than anything in the whole world? And she goes, I love my mom, Mr. Berthot. I said, okay, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to feel that love for your mom. And when you feel that love for your mom, I said this to her, I'm going to feel it too. And then that voice in the back of my head said, further. And I was like, okay, Mariah, keep your eyes closed and feel that feeling of love intensely. And I want you to visualize a scene. I don't know where this came from, Sean. I said, is it inside? Is it outside? Is it day? Is it night? I want you to visualize that scene in your head. And then when you feel that emotion of love and you have that visualization in your head, I want you to open your eyes. And when you open your eyes, I'm going to play the piano and sing. So she opened her eyes and I started playing the piano. I got goosebumps all over my body. And I was like, what? And I started seeing these visions in my head, like seeing a movie that she was singing this amazing song. But then I saw this scene in my head and I thought, well, maybe I'm making this up, right? And I stopped her and I said, Mariah, this is crazy, but are you like on a green grass hill with like a tree to your right and some flowers to your left, like a picnic situation? And she looked at me, Sean, she goes, Berthot, how do you know that? I was like, I have no idea. So for a whole summer with these teenagers, I would test it. Mm-hmm. And they'd project it, I'd project it. And I realized something. The kids that were more in touch and integrated and regulated, now that I know these words, emotionally, that were able to feel at an intensity level that could get them to visualize that, I was always able to pick up on it. Mm-hmm. And so if you think about, to all the audience too, if you think about like an athlete or you're watching a sporting event and you're watching it and you're so into it and your leg kicks or your arm jerks, or you're watching a performance and you feel love or you start to cry out of nowhere, it's because the person that's doing the thing is feeling at such a high level that they are visualizing a scene and they are so in it, you have no choice but to be connected with them in that moment. And I tested it, and where I freaked out was 2013. We do a choir camp every year, and I did it in front of the whole room with Kayla in the back. There were 80 kids in the room, and Kayla, one of my students, and we did it in front of everybody. And lots of the kids saw what we saw, and I was like, man, they're gonna throw me out of here, man. So I quit. So when I read that book in 2019, the Joe Dispenza book, Energy is Frequency. Frequency carries information. I was like, of course. Because in the book, he talks about how emotions have frequency. Right. I am wholeness. I am love. I am joy. I am bliss, right? That's elevating our frequency. Right. What are you going to attach to that frequency for information? So visualizations, smells, tastes, right. Everything. And
so if someone's in a state of one of these emotions, these higher level emotions, the trick then becomes to layer them.
Oh, yeah.
Or add other elements to them or other sensory elements to that already versioning or that already like kind of resonating.
Correct.
So it's going beyond them, that feeling.
Goosebumps.
So yes. Almost like an empath, I guess, or because I have this incredible sense of connectedness to other human beings and compassion. Big crier. Like if I go to a show, a live show, whether it be Broadway or if I go to, see a movie or anything, I am in that moment. Now, this is not a living person. This is not a living, it's a character on a screen.
Yeah.
So I'm just intrigued as to see how that might work. For me, I'm being a little selfish.
Well, what I realized, Sean, is that I got this download because, I got selected to present about performance magic in London at King's College with the Estel voice training that I'm a part of, okay? In the Estel voice training, there's craft, which is voice technique, E-A-U, you remember that? Yeah. There's artistry, which is storytelling, which I have a whole framework that I teach my speakers and presenters how to do that. And then there's performance magic. Performance magic is the ultimate goal for every high performer in the entire world, period.
It's like wisdom. It's all the elements coming together.
So
like a mastery.
Mahomes is hurt, but we had Jordan.
Of course, he uses a Kansas City Chiefs reference.
Of course I'm going to. But in
where are they now?
Yeah, exactly. The idea is, in every aspect of life, there is a craft, there's a technique, there's a thing, there's like a widget or this little item, and you master how to do that thing or that item, all right? So for sports, in football, if you're the quarterback, you master the fundamentals of being a quarterback, all right? Passing, reading, handing off, reading, like you master all those elements. Right. That's craft. That's just technique. Right. So in speaking, it's mastering the posture. It's doing the exercises. It's making sure that your mouth and your tongue and everything is where it's supposed to be so that when you speak, you're very clean and clear. That's just technique. Right. All right? Then there's the artistry of football or the artistry of speaking. Okay. The artistry in football is taking those craft elements of technique and making it yours and your implementation of the craft. Okay. So in speaking, Sean works with me. We work on his technique. We work on his posture. We start giving him the story framework. He starts to build his story of being in prison, and I start coaching him on keep your chin up, Sean. Make sure you're anchored. Make sure you're opening your mouth and giving them those reminders over time as a vocal athlete, as we are. Those become muscle memory. The craft is now mastered. Then we want the artistry, the implementation of Sean speaking, the implementation of Patrick Mahomes being a quarterback, starting to make plays and creating, all right? You start creating on the fly as a speaker, and you're like, Matt and I didn't talk about that. That's because you've made it Sean's art now. Mm-hmm. That's where we want to go. So the last step, performance magic, is the third pillar, which is the one we all want. It's the moment that you are in flow. You are in a state where you can do no wrong. It's the most creative thing that you could possibly be in with God, the creator, with co-creators that are in spirit just like you in that moment, right? The goosebumps that we get physically is a yes that your soul and spirit are resonating at a very high frequency, and you're saying yes to that moment with people around you, with the thing that you're trying to do. It's like Mahomes doing a no-look pass for the first time, and the league freaks out.
Right. What is this?
Correct.
This witchery.
It's magic. Because the way I explained it, and like you said, they didn't do much this year. But when you have, and this goes for any leadership team, this goes for any sports team, this goes for anything in the world, all right? Like
it's transferable.
I just talked about Metallica. Like I'm thinking about Metallica right now. You got James, the lead guitar, then you got this solo guitar player, you got this bass player, and you got Lars on the drums, all right? They all four mastered the craft of their instrument. They all four made it the artistry. They made it their way. And then they all four found their flow and their magic, their sweet spot. So when you put those four together on stage, it is hypnotic. When you put in the 90s, Jordan, Pippen, that whole team together, and Jordan, as you've watched in The Last Dance, was elite. He wanted people to work as hard as he did. He'd go crazy when people didn't do that because he was putting his best out there, and he was doing things nobody ever saw anybody do in the history of the game. That's performance magic. So when one of my favorite speakers of all time, Ed Milet, he has spoken to teams, to leaders since he was in his early 20s, all right? He's got lots of reps. He knows what stories work and what resonates and what doesn't. But the second he feels deeply, he triggers himself into flow state. And just like out here when we were talking to Bobby, I was talking to him, he was talking to me, and he said to me, just talking in a conversation, man, Matt, I got goosebumps. I was like, good. That's my job. Right? But so in 2019, when I figured that out, I didn't have a simple way to get high performers that wanted to get into flow state, like you, Sean, into that state anytime. I needed like a 4-step thing. And so I did a CrossFit workout. I come out, I was talking to my buddy, Sean, and I said, Sean, man, I got to present in London in like 2 weeks. I don't know how I'm going to tell these voice colleagues of the world, like how to get people into performance magic quick. I need like some steps. Right. And I said that out loud. And then sure enough, God was like, boop, 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 boop. Get in a meditative state, build your energy, visualize a scene, take massive action. I was like, holy crap. And so in that moment, when I told Sean that, we had a voice lesson later that day because he was taking singing lessons with me. I had this vision of standing at the door of boardrooms with people that were making deals and getting them into this state before they go into the meeting. So they already visualized how they want the meeting to go, how they want the people to receive them. And then I was like, oh, well, I could do this for performers. I could do it for athletes.
Right. The skills are transferable.
Correct.
So much of the self-development world and faith and religion, they have so many of the same principles attached to them that it's funny when you dive into this world of self-development. It's almost like getting religion, right? Playfully, I say that. Because if you've ever met anybody who's gotten religion, they want to scream it from the mountaintops. Mm-hmm. We want to scream it from the rooftops. We're always on a soapbox. We're always preaching about how, you need to try this. This worked for me. You went through a bit of that yourself when you had this awakening.
Oh, yeah.
It started, I know, with the Ed Milet and the Andy Frisellas and Artistry Syndicate. What does that transition look like? Because I want you to tell that story. I think it's such a powerful story of how you almost had to shed your identity around this music teacher from this small town. You had to leave things, ideas, peoples, and even a career behind. Let's tell the audience about that story and the pain that you went through in order to build the life that I met you at the very beginning of, which is to become someone who listened to that voice, who leaned into that gift. But in the interim, you had to scrap everything and, even upend your life to get to the place where you could actually embrace this gift.
Yep.
Because I don't want people to think that this is an easy path, but I also want people to know that you're no spring chicken and you were able to do this at an elevated point in your life. So,
Thanks.
I just love the story because you reinvented yourself, and it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but you did it anyway because it just felt right.
Yep.
But not always.
No. Well, Sean, thank you for that invitation. I loved being a choir teacher. And I was just talking to one of my coaches this week about the word longing, about I need to refocus that with I can still have those moments again in the future. Because I kept going back to, it was a lot of fun to do the choir stuff, right? But it was also easy. It was a machine. I created little rock star leaders, I didn't have to move a riser. I didn't have to do nothing. I just said, show yourself your best. What's the potential on you, right? Nobody puts limits on you. Like everything I learned, I gave to everybody, just like I do now. So 2019 at King's College, we come back. I got a standing ovation. People are crying. I taught it. It was amazing. There were skeptics, mainly the Italians and the Spanish. They don't like
Europeans.
They don't like gray. They don't like gray. They want black and white facts. And that was mystic. That was mystique. And it was magic. But I remember being in the Olympus Hotel, talking to my team. There were 14 of us that went, kids and adults. And I told them, our lives are about to change forever after that moment. And I knew, Sean, I knew that I was supposed to leave public school then, in that moment. I knew I was done, but I stayed. And then every year it got harder. COVID happened in 2020. Kids started dropping the program, and Creator, God kept telling me, you're done. You're done. Get out. You're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to teach leaders. What are you doing? And I didn't listen. And I got labeled a bully and a toxic male for getting onto a couple kids that were being disrespectful. I listened to what my administration said. They'd said to take them to a separate room and don't do it in front of everybody. Because that's how I taught. I would be like, Sean, stand up.
Right.
Sean, put your phone away. Right?
In front of the class.
Correct. After COVID, everybody was soft. Everybody was like, oh, you're a toxic male. You're targeting me. You're a bully. And I was like, I didn't change. My expectations never changed. Right. So I got written up for that. And then I was too intense. I got written up for that. I got written up for how I spoke to a colleague, a fellow teacher, on an email, Sean. My tone.
Did you put too many exclamation points
I guess,
at the end of that sentence?
I don't know.
You bully.
And then the last one, May 2023, I was in class and these two little girls were on their phone and they were not paying attention. They were not singing. And I said, would you please stand up and sing? Would you please stand up and sing? The whole room saw it. Billy, my accompanist, saw it. And the next day we're doing Pilgrim's Hymn by Paulus. And it's my best choir. And it's just one of the best songs of all time. And I get this message from my principal, you need to come down with your union rep.
Ooh,
and I was like, what in the world? I go down there. I bring my buddy Michael in. And the principal's in there, the superintendent, and the assistant principal of the middle school. And the principal goes, Matt, we're going to take your keys. I was like, what in the, for what? And they slid this paper. And they said, you were targeting and bullying these two little girls in your room. And I was like, are you kidding me? They're like, no, you're done. I was like, oh, what? So talk about a walk of shame. You know, my son Max was in middle school.
At the school?
Yeah. And he came down after school, and that was the last time I was able to come into the building to get my stuff. And I had to come at the end of the year, and they put all of my stuff in the band room, and we loaded up in my car and took it to my house. I interviewed for Arc City High School, where I wrestled, where I grew up. And I made it to the board, and they interviewed me, and I asked all the right questions and told them, you know, what I could do. And I got out of that meeting and out of the interview, and I called my wife at the time. I said, this isn't it. I'm not supposed to do this. I'm not going to take the job. I'm going to do Voice by Matt. That's what I'm going to do. And I told her, I said, I'm going to be gone this summer quite a bit at networking events and trying to build a client base about that time you signed up with me. And I'd been coaching business professionals since 2019. Nathan Mansfield was one of my first clients, but there was I didn't have to have.
It was a side hustle.
Correct. It was definitely a side hustle.
But you knew.
I knew.
What was that walk like, going back into the band room, getting your
sucked.
shit, but knowing in your heart that God did for you what you couldn't do for yourself? You couldn't rip off the Band-Aid. Mm-hmm. You couldn't rip off the level of comfortability you created. Or I wouldn't even say comfortability, because I know you personally. It wasn't like it was great. No. It was just going through the motions. So God gave you a timeout, much like they put me in prison to kind of show me the way. But, you know, what's the advice you can give to anybody who's looking to reinvent themselves? Somebody who knows in their heart that they're meant to do something else, but is afraid to go into the unfamiliar. What are a couple of things you did that you can pass on to our audience to let them know what might work for them if they're going through the same or something similar?
Well, I would ask them these 4 questions. 1, what do you love more than anything in the whole world? 2, what makes you tick? What gets you excited about life? What makes you feel, you know, whole, right? So for me, what I love more than anything in the world is I love helping people. I love helping people let their soul and spirit come out and say hello and watch them light up. What makes me tick? Those light bulb moments. When Sean was like, telling me this story of prison, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what you're gonna have to talk about. You know that, right? He was like, no, I'm not gonna talk about that. Yeah, you are. The third question is, what are your purposes and roles, right? So for me, it's like I'm a father, I'm a boyfriend, I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, I'm a healer, I'm a helper, I'm an athlete, I'm a performer, I'm a singer. And then the last question is, why are you on earth in this time and space? And for me, I mean, that's the journey everyone's trying to figure out, right? For me, it's I'm on earth to help people let their soul and spirit come out and say hello.
Right. Now, just to be clear, this wasn't something that you knew at the time.
Oh, no.
But you had the courage to take the first 2 or 3 points there and put them into action, which will then lead you to an answer of why am I here, or what's my greater purpose.
Correct.
So, you know, I just want to thank you for coming out and for also sharing the story, which I know is still raw and emotional, because ironically enough, while I was sharing my story for the first times, so were you, and I got to hear them from your point of view. Yeah. And I just want to say thank you, my friend, for having the courage and just being you to go on the mission, which inadvertently sparked mine and so many others. So you are definitely exactly where you need to be, my friend. And I'm so proud of you and proud to call you a friend. And I'm glad you came and trekked all the way out here in person so we can get this done.
Yeah.
Matt, tell our audience where they can find out more about you, Voice by Matt, and whether or not we can be looking for any Unmute events coming up in the near future.
Well, you can find me at voicebymatt.com. That's my website. Voice by Matt on Instagram, Voice by Matt on Facebook. There's a Voice by Matt podcast and YouTube channel. Sean has my cell phone. So if you're out there and you're a person that needs to find their voice and you need some help unpacking that, give Sean a text, give him an email. You can email me at voicebymatt@gmail.com. But I think for you and for me, what we want for people is for them to feel what we feel right now. And what I mean by that is this. There's nowhere else on earth that I'm supposed to be right now except for this moment. And that's what we want for everybody. Angela, my girlfriend, she's right over here. She was also at the first unmute.
Yeah.
And that's how I met her. And without her, I wouldn't be here right now because she helped me tremendously to get to this point and believed in me when it felt like you were in New York. All my friends were my clients, basically. And she held on. She believed in me when a lot of people just gave up. So you asked how hard it was. I mean, I got divorced. I lost my job. I had to go all in on what God intended me to do.
You just mentioned what you lost. What did you gain?
Oh, man. I'm a way better man. I'm a way better father. I don't react so much anymore. I have 2-3 coaches that, I never had before. Wealth is just a byproduct. That's going really well. But the most important part is I get to help leaders lead better with more intention, with more integrity, with more emotional regulation, to not be afraid to show emotion when they do speak. So I'm still gaining. I had dreams to introduce Ed Milet, and Angela, made that happen for me. And I got to be on stage with him, got to spend time with him. I got to go to his house last month. And it's like, watching you do your thing. And I already knew this was going to happen. I already knew. But Sean had to say yes.
Yeah.
And I had to say yes.
Well, thank you for causing me to say yes through the means that you were given to do so, my friend.
Man.
It is an absolute honor and a privilege. And you can follow Matt. You can learn more about voice training and what he taught me, which was the term vocal athlete. More and more in the society that we have, that we're living in, personal brands and your voice, both figuratively and literally, need to be heard. I know that Matt is an amazing person to help bring that out of you. So make sure you follow Matt. We'll have all of his information in the bio. As always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Real Mentors podcast. Make sure to share, like, subscribe, and comment so we can push this platform forward and help more people like yourself get information they may not otherwise be exposed to. As always, let's get it.